Okay, so you want to tool leather. First order of business, get your leather. Second order of business, get your pattern for your project. For this video, we're going to be making a wallet. Now you have to decide what weight leather, what type of leather. First things first, you gotta use veg tan. Veg tan is the type of leather you can tool on. You have to figure out what weight leather you like to use for whatever project it is. I like to use the thickest possible leather for whatever project it is that I'm gonna use. Thicker the leather, the deeper you can tool, and the deeper you can tool, the longer your tooling will last. So we're gonna start off this video. We're going to just do a little wallet real quick. Whatever it is you wanna use to trace out your project or your pattern, do that. Then you're gonna wanna cut it out. Same thing, some people like a head knife, some people like a razor blade, some people like other kinds of knives. Whatever it is that makes you comfortable, that you like to use. Then you wanna cut your project out. Okay, there we have our wallet exterior. Now there are a couple methods of figuring out how you wanna lay your project out. For me, I make tons of wallets, so I have all this stuff already pre-figured out. You can see that I have my windows, I have my stitching line here marked, and what I like to do, so I don't have to think about this when I'm in the hustle and bustle of an average day, I will mark the important spots, such as my windows and my stitching line. Boom. It's gonna be hard to see on the camera, but I can see it with my eyes. Now we're gonna move on to the next step. We are going to get the art set up for our wallet. Typically, I actually like to draw directly onto the leather. I've gotten pretty handy at drawing, and I don't like taking this extra step. Drawing directly on the project ensures my customer every single project I do is one of a kind. What we're gonna do now is roughly trace these windows. Doesn't have to be perfect at this moment. Try and get it pretty accurate. Quick interruption. YouTube has notified me that literally 80% of you guys who watch my videos are not subscribed. So please hit that subscribe button. We are trying to hit 3,000 subscribers by the end of 2023. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I am a leather crafter who makes videos in his spare time, just trying to put out some extra content for you guys. So please hit that subscribe button, like this video, share it with a friend, do what you can. Most of these videos take 5 or 6 hours to make between filming it, editing it, making a thumbnail, all that stuff. I don't get paid to make YouTube videos. I just enjoy doing them. So in return, if I bring you any kind of value, whether you laugh, you cry, you learn something, whatever it might be, please hit that subscribe button. Now back to the video. Now we have a rough outline of our wallet. So you can see I have this stitching groove here. My art window is actually lifted a little bit more, and the borders here where the stitching is gonna go is a little bit wider. So just make sure you know what part of your pattern is up and which part of your pattern is down. For this video, we're gonna keep it simple. We're gonna end up running a basket weave here, and then I'm gonna draw a little bit of floral for this side here. This video is not to go over how to draw floral, so I'm not gonna talk about any of that, but I'm gonna whip up a little chunk of floral that we're going to then put on this wallet here. I'm not winning any awards with this drawing here, which is fine because that's not my intentions. But what we're gonna do next is get this prepared to start carving. You've seen people probably wet leather with a sponge, tons of different methods. I personally like using a spray bottle. Normally I will hold my project off the edge over here and spray it, but for visual demonstration purposes, I'm gonna spray it like this. Don't want any of this liquid getting into the back side. We want to get it a little bit damp. We don't want to soak it, just enough to kind of change the color of the leather. So now what I want to do is I want to gauge where my stitching line should be. So this is about the same size, and here I have my dots. So here's what I'm going to do is mark my stitching lines where my stitching lines need to be. Boom, 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 boom. I know it's probably hard to see on this camera. GoPro is not notorious for their up close details. Okay, and here is our other windows. So you have to be a little bit careful and pay attention. So this top line will go here, this top line will go here. Now we have to make sure we gauge these out to the right distance so we have consistency on both sides. Boom, boom. This middle line, go dot to dot. Super easy. So once you have your artwork, whether that's floral, flowers, a skull, a logo, whatever it might be, you can go ahead and line it up to where it needs to go. And I'm gonna show you something that would be probably a big no-no to a lot of people, but I'm gonna show you that leather crafting is fun and you don't have to necessarily follow every single rule to make something really cool. Some people like to trace with a stylus tool, or some people will trace with a pencil. I typically like to trace with a pen because it rolls over the surface pretty easy. And one of my techniques that not everybody does, but I enjoy doing, is I don't really care for playing within the boundaries. Typically for my own personal work, I won't trace that borderline as aggressive as I did to show you guys, but I did it for visual representation, so that might come back to bite me in the behind here, but we're going with it. But there is a way to make sure those lines aren't visible. Keep tracing our artwork. You know, this isn't my craziest drawing or anything like that. We're doing something kind of simple for you guys out there who are just getting into this. And there we have our art transferred. Like I said, we're gonna do a basket weave on the other side. So we are going to give ourselves a straight line from corner to corner, make it easy on ourselves. Okay, so here's what you will do next is you're gonna reapply some of the moisture to this leather. This is one of those things people will sit here and tell you, you have to put a certain amount of moisture into the leather and let it sit for a certain amount of time. But if I sit here and tell somebody and they live in, you know, the Pacific Northwest, right? If they're in Washington or Oregon or something, their leather is gonna stay wet so much longer compared to somebody who's trying to tool leather in New Mexico or El Paso or somewhere in the Southwest where it's extremely hot and extremely dry. Not to mention whether a person is inside their house, inside a workshop, inside a garage. It's one of those things that people will argue about and it doesn't make any sense to, because it is an absolute case-by-case basis. What we're doing here is we're applying some blue tape so that way our leather doesn't stretch when we go to tool it. While we're doing this, we're also letting some of that water absorb into the surface. Okay, now we got a zoom close-up shot. What we're gonna do is you can see here that I went over these lines. Now I'm kicking myself in the butt because I marked these lines super hard, which I should not have done to show you guys this video. But it is what it is, the damage is done. If you're a person who likes to stay within the window, you could skip this part, but if you're a person who likes to go on the outside of the borders like I do, this is how you get rid of it. You're gonna take yourself a pear shader or even a molding tool or modeling tool and kind of take the edge, kind of right where it starts to round over, and just give it a little rub until that line isn't visible, and then you're gonna go lightly and kind of whip it out so it blends a little naturally. So you're gonna kind of dig it out with the edge and then kind of brush it out naturally so you don't have like basically, you know, an awkward looking dig spot like that. So you can dig it out, and then kind of from there, fade it out. Here we go. Here's our artwork laid out. You can see, you know, these lines aren't super straight, and that's gonna be okay, because if you wanna learn how to do leather work, what's more important than using a swivel knife or learning how to carve is actually just learning how to make the art look nice, or learning how to make the carves look nice. That will come down to knowing when to waver from your lines, when to stretch things here, when to pull things there, when to really bring it all together, so at the end it ultimately looks super nice and not like you just sat there and followed a complete super strict set of rules and guidelines. What we're gonna do to start off, we're gonna carve this border over here, kind of get warmed up a little bit. If you want a video to explain carving in depth a little bit more, and the different swivel knives you could use and all the little subtleties for the different blades, and a more in-depth look at the carving process, I have a video coming out very soon. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and keep an eye out for it. Same thing. You're gonna watch me waver from these lines quite a bit because I don't like to waste a ton of time transferring my art over super specific to then only kind of waver anyways. So I will just transfer pretty loosey-goosey and then use my eye and what is natural to make it look the way I want it to. Usually my art will be a framework, and then my carving will be the actual, you know, the actual artwork. So these borders are very symmetrical, very straight, because they are all based off of the actual borders and the straight lines that are already here. So those are one thing that you don't want to waver from the lines. You want to follow your border lines as accurately as possible. So as you can see, I didn't have to sit there and get it wet a bunch of times. I didn't have to do a bunch of all this other random crap. Don't overcomplicate it. Your biggest lesson and your biggest asset is going to be just your personal skill, knowing when to get it wet, when not to get it wet. Don't get caught up in all the quote unquote rules and semantics of all these people on YouTube or all the books. You hear 1,000 of them, and quite frankly, nobody is agreeing on anything. As of right now, I am like the only person I know on YouTube who's teaching people just do what works for you, because at the end of the day, you're the person writing the formula to your own success. Take elements of things that you like. Maybe you don't like the fact that I made these edge marks and then went over them. Okay, well, maybe listen to somebody who tells you to account for all that stuff first. This method is very fast. This method is very accurate. Certain cases you might need to slow down. Certain cases you might be a little bit okay to speed up. Just let it ride. That is how you prep your leather for tooling. If you watch this video by itself, awesome, thank you for watching. If you're watching this video as a precursor to any of the other videos that I have that redirected you to this video, you can basically start that video from here moving forward. Thank you guys for watching. I will catch you in the next one.